Hi everyone. Sorry we're late, that was my fault, I got stuck in traffic. Here we are, Bevel again, 1 o'clock, well, 10 past 1, and today we're on sponge cake with cream and fruit with Sue and Johnny.
Hello.
He's got his hat on today.
So, just a basic sponge cake recipe, really adaptable, and we've got it served with some cream and some fruit. So, we'll go on to the cake mix first. So, I've got my flavour weighed out, sugar, butter, and a couple of wee spices. I've got some nutmeg and some cloves, so we'll use a wee bit of that.
Is that to get in the sponge?
Yeah, it's
Oh.
the sponge. Just a wee trying it out just to see. So we've preheated the oven at 180 degrees, and in a large mixing bowl, cream together the sugar and butter. So yeah, we'll do that first. So we have sugar.
There we go, into the mixing bowl.
Into the mixing bowl.
This is the bit that always hurts my arm, when you're creaming sugar and butter together. It just takes forever.
I know.
Is there an easy way to do it? Is there a technique of maybe heating the butter up or?
So right, it won't. If you melt the butter, don't melt the butter.
Right.
It won't work. That will kind of make it get into like a crystalline kind of blob.
Right, so keep it just soft.
Yeah, the only thing that you can really do to help is leave that butter out at room temperature so that it's nice and soft for you to start with.
There you go. Hi Sally.
Some recipes will tell you to use the back of your spoon to go through it. I think that's more just to make sure that you've broke up all sugar.
Is it? I remember. I don't know if it's an old wives' tale that it goes a slightly different colour. No, is that an old wives' tale?
So what's that, sorry?
I remember my mum was baking. She used to say that it goes a slightly different colour, and that's when you know it's ready. But I don't know if that's maybe because it was different butter in those days, and
I've never actually heard that.
No, heard that one.
No, could be though. So I'd say that that's quite creamed as well. You know, you can kind of, you should hear a slightly different change in the sound. It should sound less gritty, and that'll be a good indication of when the sugar's all broke up.
Sally's just did an interesting point, and she says you can use oil instead.
Yeah, you could use oil instead. Yeah.
I got.
So eggs. So this is quite interesting.
Right, here we go.
What is this?
This is Johnny and his egg freezing.
Frozen egg. So yes, you can absolutely freeze eggs. So
Is that you've just broken them up and put them in the tub, haven't you?
broke them up, whisked them, put them into the tub. I would suggest to do it that way. We have done it before where we've put it into like silicone cases and had the full egg in. When that defrosts, for whatever reason, the egg white seems to defrost, but the egg yolk seems to stay solid. So I find it best to beat it all up, then freeze it. In terms of defrosting it, microwaves and bain-maries with hot water and steam and stuff off the cards.
It'll start to cook.
It cooks the outside.
I was going to say it'll start to cook.
But a frozen one of these, an hour in a sink with lukewarm water, defrosted it.
There you go.
And you can see now that is literally just egg. So
That's handy to know if you've got loads of eggs and you don't want to. See if you're throwing them out, you can just
yeah, so that
freeze them if you know you're not going to use them.
I just whipped most of them, kept them frozen like that, so this can be used for scrambled egg, omelette.
Helen says you can hardly hear you talking.
Hello, can you hear me now?
She says you're I don't know, I didn't notice that before. Right, sorry Helen, we'll get him to talk up.
Right, talk up. Right, so this egg here can be used for scrambled egg, frittatas,
Omelettes.
all kinds of stuff like that. I also separated the egg yolks and the egg whites, so I've got frozen egg white that could be used for meringue. I've got frozen egg yolk that could be used for making custard. So lots and lots of different uses.
There we go.
So
No,
that's
see, I honestly didn't know before I started this that you could freeze egg. So at least I now, and me and a lot of people now know that you can freeze eggs safely.
yeah. It's not so much of a common thing. It's not a particularly appetising looking thing, but there is little to no change in the flavour, and certainly with cakes and stuff like that, you know, with your egg yolk being like a binding agent, the freezing doesn't seem to affect that either. So
And it saves a lot of waste because you think of the amount of eggs that must get. This is Sally would know this, but the amount of eggs that must get thrown out every year, it must be phenomenal.
as well, the last thing I'll say about eggs, this isn't completely accurate, so I encourage everybody to go onto Google and look themselves. I had a look on Google, and it was saying that eggs, when they're past their best before date, could last up to 2 weeks out of a fridge, and it was something like up to 6 weeks in a fridge. So when you think your eggs are out of date, they're really not. Like, you can use them for quite a long period. It is important though to either store them in the fridge or outside the fridge, because the fluctuation in temperature will spoil the egg. So you need to decide whether you're going to store them in a fridge or out of a fridge, but they will last a very long time.
I keep mine in a cool place in the kitchen.
Yeah, that's perfect, as long as there's no change in temperature. So step 2, we've beaten the eggs, so it's already been beaten, defrosted. And we're going to gradually add this to the butter. So I'm going to opt.
Say, would you like for an extra pair of hands to come in and do the eggs, and we'll get
Yes,
Sophie.
please, that would be-
Well, we'll introduce you now to Sophie, who's going to come in as an extra pair of hands. Sophie, can we borrow you for an extra pair of hands, please? This is Sophie. This is our lovely office, to anyone who doesn't know. There we are, see? Right, there we are. Sophie's coming in as an extra pair of hands.
So if you could gradually add that egg into this. I'm going to use a whisk here. So there we go. So we'll just stick the rest of it in, that'll be fine.
Thank you, Sophie,
Have
for
you
your,
got any more?
thank you for your extra pair of hands. Thank you.
You see that this is quite lumpy at the moment. You can do this with a wooden spoon, but the whisk just makes it so much quicker.
Because it can go through all the gaps in the whisk.
Yeah.
I used to do it with a spoon, and then I discovered that a whisk much quicker. So
You can see that that's nice and creamy now. So some cake recipes will tell you to add all your dry and all your wet ingredients to two different bowls, then add your wet into your dry. This recipe does it the other way, where it's telling you, you know, take all your dairy and then your sugar, then we'll get that, then we put the flour in. So this is the flour.
there we are.
It's normal self-raising flour. What we're going to do is to make sure that it rises. In fact, I won't have to do that because I do have baking powder. Hold on. Baking powder.
So you could use self-raising flour instead of plain flour, but you just don't add the self-raising. You just don't add the baking powder, I mean.
Well, I'm going to add baking powder into this as well, just for extra.
So is that self-raising flour you've got there?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not essential, you're completely right. If you've got self-raising flour as just plain flour that's got baking powder in it, I've just decided to add a wee bit extra, quite common with cakes because you want to get as much of a rise as possible. Remember, as I said last week, if you can't get baking powder, you can use a mixture of cream of tartar and bicarbonate soda will make baking powder.
Cool.
So yeah, and I'm going to add just
Hello to everybody who's watching.
a wee bit of cloves.
If my pal Alison in Germany's watching, hi.
Hello Alison. Okay, now
There we go.
flour.
You see that? I end up having to stop every 5 minutes because I hurt my arm.
That's another thing that I've noticed. See the stopping and starting when you're doing cakes. It usually works out for the worst.
Does that knock air out it or something when you
leave it?
When you leave it, because it sinks.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're constantly keeping it moving, you're keeping the air going through it.
Yeah, because when you're whisking something, that is effectively what you're doing, is you're adding air into it. So. Like that. I think I might need Sophie again.
Sophie, can we borrow your arms, please? This is our amazing assistant, Sophie.
Hello.
Can you grease this tin up for me, please? Right, so we've cake mix here. Sophie's just going
She's just washing her hands.
to wash her hands and then grease the cake tin for me. So we're just going to use a wee bit of butter to grease the tin. Make sure that nothing sticks. 'Cause that's the
Can you
last
use
thing.
greaseproof paper instead of using a grease in the tin?
Yep, you can use grease-proof paper. Yep.
Couldn't say that there.
Yeah.
Proof paper.
Yeah. I prefer not to though if I can get away with just greasing the tin.
I think sometimes when you use grease, you see, I can't say it now. With the folds in it, because you're having to tuck it in and make it a circle. So I remember my mum used to make Dundee cakes. She used to cut a circle for the bottom and then cut a bit so it went round, and that stopped it all wrinkling and folding and making marks in your.
That's a good idea actually,
Stops it making marks in your especially sponge cakes, because they tend to mark quite quickly or quite easily. There's all these fruit lined up, the fruit bit.
So this is just some fruit that we had, just waste surplus food that came in from the supermarkets. Got some raspberries, apricot, blueberries. So that's the fruit that we'll be serving with.
Right, got a wee close up of our Soph and our. There she is, greasing the tin. And what's funny about greasing a tin?
Nothing. Here we go. Is that alright?
Thank you very much.
It's an expertly greased tin. Look at that.
You're the best.
There we go. There we go. Is that an apricot?
Yep.
Is it a hard skin on an apricot? I've never. Do you know? I don't think I've actually eaten an apricot.
It's quite close to a peach.
Right. I've tasted apricot, but I don't. I like apricot jam,
Yeah.
but I don't think I've actually sat and ate a peach. An apricot, I mean.
I'd like to try it.
No, thank you. I will off camera in case I don't like it and pull a face.
Really close to a peach.
All good.
Thank you. So, is that this is raspberries we got in from the co-op this morning. And blueberries we got in from the co-op this morning. Because we pick up their excess food. And nothing goes to waste.
Okay, so you can see that this tin is generously greased. No sticking. These tins are also really good because they've got this buckle which holds the outer part. The outer part and the base are two different parts of the tin, so when you unbuckle that, it will loosen the bottom bit, which makes it really easy for getting it out and stuff like
I was
that.
going to say, that's much better than trying to prise it out.
Yeah.
And then you end up breaking it. And then you end up having to piece it back together again and hiding the sins with icing. Which many a time I've done. There you go, look at. There's Johnny and his favourite silicone spoon.
Yes. Swear by them.
If anybody would like to lick the spoon, as happened last week, we're going to raffle it at the end.
These are all off your nut. Licking things with raw egg.
It was a raw egg in the cookies last week. And the muffins. I don't think there's egg in muffins, is there?
No, was there no?
I don't think there's egg in muffins. But there's egg in this one, so we really don't recommend it. So if Jim's watching, you're not getting the spoon.
So we're just.
Who was the other one? It was Michelle wanted to lick the spoon as well. So Michelle and Jim, I'm sorry. But on hindsight, there's raw egg in it. You're not getting the spoon. at that. How cool is that?
So that's our cake.
Now see, look how quick it took you to make that. See, if I'd been in the kitchen myself making that, I'd have been there for hours.
I have had a few hours to prepare it, to be fair. So, preheated oven.
Plus the fact you had flour everywhere.
Yeah.
And butter everywhere.
So it's really, really important that you preheat your oven. It's also very important that, when possible, you do not open that oven, because
That would reduce the temperature, wouldn't it?
reduce the temperature and your cake won't cook properly, so try and leave that oven closed.
Cool. Does it matter where you put it, or is the middle the best place?
Middle shelf. If you put it on the top, it'll make too much colour on the top, and if you put it on the bottom, there's a tendency for the very base of your cake to burn.
Ah, right, okay.
Most cake recipes I've saw will tell you to put it into the middle shelf.
Cool.
So
There we go, middle
got
shelf.
Got a fruit cut. So this recipe tells you to get some double cream, whip it with a whisk, incorporating that air into it till you get to stiff peaks and a wee bit of icing sugar, which gives you a kind of sweetened cream. Now, first time we've tried this, but we've got this creme fraiche, so I'm going to try and sweeten a wee bit of this and serve that with the cake instead.
I suppose you can do it with all sorts of things, can't you? You can use creme fraiche, double cream, a butter cream. Well, I can use all sorts.
Soon find out.
Well, I don't see why you can't. I mean, you can use creme fraiche for all sorts of things, so I don't see why you can't use it for that. So, icing sugar.
Yeah, so I'm just going to use just enough icing sugar to sweeten this.
There we go.
You could just have the creme fraiche with the cake, couldn't you though?
Could do. Yep. I say it's one of them things quite versatile. You can use anything in it. Like, I say buttercream, chocolate. You can use whatever you want in it, really. It's your own imagination.
Also, apologies guys, it was meant to be me doing this and Sally doing a vegan cake, but Sally wasn't able to come in today, so we'll probably do that as its own separate live at a later date. So we are
Missing you, Sally.
Yeah. We can talk a wee bit about it though, so when you're making, sweets are, it's quite, they're the difficult thing, I think, to do vegan or the desserts. They're kind of the hardest thing, especially with cake, because, your egg yolk in your cake, so egg white, when you incorporate air into that, that's like a rising agent, that will help your cake to rise, and your yolk is a binding agent, so that helps your cakes to bind together. So then you're faced with a problem, because when you're not using egg in your cake, well, how do you get it to bind, how do you get it to rise? And there is various things that you can use. Sally was using something called flaxseed, which
That cake she brought in last week was absolutely fantastic, and it was a vegan cake, and it was absolutely gorgeous.
oh aye, it was the lemon one.
The lemon one.
The chocolate one's even nicer. Sally made me a vegan chocolate fudge cake for my birthday, and it was amazing.
So that's really good to know, because I think if I knew how to do it, I would make vegan cakes, because that lemon one was just amazing. And I must admit, I would make it, and if I found out how to make chocolate as well, I would make vegan chocolate cake rather than using eggs. I think any way you can avoid using animal products is for the better. Right, so do you know how much you put in that, or is it just like a personal taste, really?
It's a personal taste, so I've added quite a bit, because again, I've never tried to sweeten creme fraiche before, so it tastes a wee bit like cheesecake topping.
Yeah, I was going to say it would do, because that's basically with it, cream cheese and your icing sugar and your double cream, so
Yeah.
it's not far off the same thing.
That's cool, so...
And here's the Blue Peter moment. And here's one I made earlier.
As you can see...
Well, I didn't make it, he did, I didn't.
I am not a star baker by any means necessary.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's certainly not the best. I'm sure it will taste nice. Aesthetics, it doesn't look that great, unfortunately, but we'll get it plated up.
Right, Sally's just commented, and I'll read it out to you. My favourite egg substitute for baking is soya milk, curdled with vinegar, and I've started adding a spoonful of flaxseed.
Yeah.
There you go.
Cool.
I can't, there's another comment after that, but I can't see it because it won't let me look at it. There you go. So, soya milk, vinegar, and flaxseed. So, once she comes back, we'll do another video and we'll get Sally making her vegan cake, because it really was. That was one. I mean, I've tasted a few vegan cakes, but that was absolutely delicious.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I had about 3 bits of it.
And I would say as well, it is definitely the harder thing is probably, you know, with the vegan stuff, it's okay making soups and mains and stuff like that, but desserts, there's not as much of a range. So,
But I suppose if you find things that work the way Sally does, then you stick to that, and you can just vary it depending on what flavours and all that you're using.
exactly.
There we go. You see, that's the way my sponge would end up. I'd have a dip in the middle. But then the dip could be quite good, because you could put your fruit in the dip.
You could put your fruit in the dip.
Now what are you doing? Why are you cutting about it? Oh, I see, right. I thought you were going to add the cream and the fruit to the top. You're adding...
Yeah, so much more practical way of doing things. You can absolutely cut through the middle and put jams and put fruit and stuff like that, but today, you know, for simplicity's sake, I think this way is a really nice way to enjoy it, but it's also just a wee bit easier. So
Look at that. That looks amazing. Look at the middle of that. Now, see, if I did that, it would come out looking like a frisbee. Right, so we'll get 2 portions of cake. The artistry comes in. There you go. Raspberries. I suppose it is easy. It's less messy doing it that way, because if you've got that in the middle of the cake and you cut it, all starts to run down the rest of the cake. So if you're doing it that way, you're making each individual portion nice and tidy. Oh, here we go. See, this is why I quite like doing this, because I get to eat all the stuff. It's great. Thank you. Right, I'll let Johnny do his first.
just keeping in mind, guys, I'm not a cake lover, but quite nice.
Right, Sally's made another wee comment. See, Sally should be doing these. To save waste, if you do it the way Johnny does, it means you can keep the fruit and the cream longer, rather than having it in the cake.
Let me tell you, I don't usually like raspberries.
No, you don't really like raspberries, do you?
No. Raspberries with the sweet and creme fresh. I can quite honestly say this is the type of thing I don't particularly like the cake. I don't particularly like raspberries, but cake, raspberries and cream all together.
It's nice.
Lovely.
This is Johnny, who claims he doesn't like cake, but it's whatever,
I don't particularly like.
because he's into the bags. Can I have a bun? I need a bun. I need a cake. I need something. But he claims he doesn't eat them. So, right, I'm just going to have a wee bit now, but I'll try not to talk with my mouth full. No, of course it's okay. Well, I've just eaten a sponge and it's delicious.
Do you not want me to take the phone?
No, it's
See
fine.
you?
No, I don't mind my voice, but you're not having me. No. I'll remain the voice from the background. No, that's delicious. I really like that cake. That's lovely. It's a nice tasty cake.
Quite nice,
There we go.
There you go, you can use creme fraiche instead of cream. If you happen to have any lying around, or if you see it reduced at the end of the night in supermarkets, you know you don't have to have cream. You could use creme fraiche.
There we go.
So there you go.
Any
So,
wee tips and...
Yeah, tips wise, so
Johnny's tips.
This sponge cake recipe can be used as the basis for lots of different cakes and cupcakes. Substitute 50 grams of flour with 50 grams of good quality cocoa to make a chocolate cake, and 2 tablespoons of instant coffee for a tasty coffee cake.
There you
Sounds
go.
lovely. To make your fruit sponge, you can use the cake batter to cover an oven-proof dish filled with pre-cooked fruit and bake at the same temperature as above. So that's meaning, you know, you could get a dish, you could cook your fruit, put it in the bottom of the dish, put your cake mix on top, or you could think on that, it's like an Eve's pudding, so you could do apple crumble, but instead of the crumble, put your sponge mixture on the top. Then you could come out, you know, with a sponge cake with like your cooked apple underneath.
Patsy, hi Patsy, wants to know, could you read the recipe out, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So, ingredients, we've got 150 grams of caster sugar, 200 grams of softened butter, 4 eggs, 200 grams of self-raising flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, 20 ml of double cream, 20 grams of sieved icing sugar, and a selection of fruit. Preheat your oven to 180 degrees. In a large mixing bowl, cream together the sugar and butter. Creaming is a common baking method which involves beating the butter and sugar together until smooth, light, fluffy texture. Step 2, beat the eggs together with a fork in a separate jug and slowly add this into the butter mixture, bit by bit, beating the mixture till smooth. Add the flour to the mix along with the baking powder and beat until smooth. Depending on your cake tin, either add your mix to a grease-lined deep cake tin or divide equally between 2 cake tins. Smooth over the surface of your cake mix to ensure a nice even surface. So we used 1 cake tin, you could split that between 2. Step 4, bake in the oven for 30 minutes for 1 deep cake tin, or if you divided it into 2, 25 minutes it'll take, or until the surface is golden brown and spring.
Till the what is golden brown?
The surface is golden brown, spring at the touch.
I'm just pulling them up, miss.
Yeah.
Sound like a sofa is golden brown or something.
If you put a knife or a skewer in and it comes out clean, the cake, you know that it's cooked. If you open the oven too early and too quickly, the incoming air will cool the oven down significantly and your cake may sag in the middle.
As in,
Yeah.
sag in the middle.
Don't worry if this happens, your cake will still taste great and can adjust your times accordingly for the next cake that you bake. Allow to rest for a few minutes out of the oven, then carefully turn out your cake by running a knife around the edge between the sponge and the tin. Cover the tin with a clean tea towel and turn upside down, gently tapping until the cake slides out of the tin. Carefully peel the parchment paper if you've used it off the bottom and place on a wire rack until cool. So all that's meaning is, let's see if I've got a cake tin I can show you.
Do you want me to take this off of here?
Yeah. So you can see that I've adjusted the buckle there. And that's it back in. So you would either parchment paper it or grease it, put your mix in. Once it comes out cooked, with these tins anyway, you can do that.
That's great, I think they're great.
Then you would use a knife or a palette knife to get underneath that. Get your wire rack, lift it on there, upside down, and it should come off.
There you go.
So,
You're very welcome, Patsy.
Yeah. So we will put the recipe on. The only other steps is how to beat your cream. So when you're beating cream, you just get your double cream and use a whisk quite aggressively until you get stiff peaks. You don't want it overbeat. Because then it can come out quite clumpy, so just as you see stiff peaks, that's when it's kind of time to stop. Then you can put it on top of your cake, serve it at the side, serve it any way you want really. So yeah,
There you go.
that's us. So
Fantastic.
thanks again, guys. Thank you again.
Hope you enjoyed our wee thing today. We'll go in and say cheerio to Sophie, since she took part today. We're going now, Sophie. Say bye.
Guys.
There she is.
Bye.
And from Sue and Johnny, we will see you next time. Bye.